Should Chinese cars be allowed into America? I'm Peter, and this is Lanekeep. I run a car buying concierge service that specializes in EVs. And let's say I had a client coming to me looking for a two-row EV, tech forward, under $50,000 that isn't a Tesla. Here's what I could put them in. Over 450 miles of range, 0 to 60 in a hair over 3 seconds, charges 10 to 80% in 12 minutes, air suspension, a 1-meter infotainment screen, and it costs $8,000 less than a similarly equipped Tesla Model Y. This car exists. It's called the Xiaomi SU7. You can buy one in China right now, although you have to endure a substantial waiting list. Soon you'll be able to get one in Europe and Australia. But here in North America, probably never. Why never? Well, let's hear the case against. This is Senator Bernie Moreno from Ohio, a former car dealer himself.
Look, the Chinese auto industry was not created to compete with Ford or GM or Toyota or Honda. They were built to destroy those companies. We're not going to let it happen in the U.S. I come from a philosophy of problem avoidance.
In many ways, Moreno is right. Chinese companies have unfair advantages that help them price their vehicles far below their Western counterparts. They don't have environmental regulations or labor issues. They're not facing the same challenges that Western automakers have in getting their cars to market, and that gives them an unfair advantage. He's also right that they've disrupted dealership networks, making initial deals with local dealerships to get into markets, and then quickly shifting gears and going direct to consumer.
Nobody can compete with a country that subsidizes its labor, has no environmental standards whatsoever, subsidizes the capital that goes in there.
But then he says this.
There's lots of healthy competition in the Western auto industry already. It's not like they're going to be complacent and we're going to turn every Western auto company into Lada. Okay. That is not the case. All right. There's lots of competition. It'll be fine.
Fine. That's the word he chose. Fine. And I just can't get past it. And while I don't care for Bernie's politics, he gets some car guy cred for the Lada joke. In 10 years, American cars might not be a punchline, but they'll probably just be fine. You know, the technology in Chinese cars of today has kind of surpassed what mainstream American car makers are capable of. And that's just not acceptable to me. I'm all for giving American automakers time to catch up, but should we be protecting them from having to even try?
I wonder, do you see similarities between, the 80s when the U.S. auto industry was facing the increased competition from Japan to today where it's China?
Oh, I think it's exactly the same thing, but it's on steroids.
That's Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford. And he's not wrong about that Japan comparison. But here's where it gets interesting.
Are the Chinese cars being made today something Americans would want to buy?
Yes.
That's right. The CEO of Ford just said Americans would want these cars from China. The cars the government is essentially banning. And there's one more thing he said.
I drive in a Xiaomi SU7, high quality, great digital experience.
So you're driving a Chinese?
I do.
Why?
Because of the competition. And to beat them, you have to know them.
That's right. The CEO of Ford drives a Chinese car to understand the competition, but American consumers are not afforded that choice. This is not a new story. In the 1970s, as Farley himself mentioned, Japanese automakers came to America and Detroit screamed bloody murder because the Japanese had better cars. They were more fuel efficient in a gas crisis. And you know what happened? Detroit mustered up the energy and started building better cars. Sony, for many years, was the dominant force in home technology. Then Samsung came into the picture and challenged that. Prices came down, we've got competition, and consumers win. There's more choice, there's more options, and more value. Name a more iconic American brand than Harley-Davidson. And when Japanese motorcycles were threatening their market share, they asked for tariffs to help them out. But you know what they did? They went back to the drawing board and fixed and improved their motorcycle. The common thread, competition, even uncomfortable competition, usually leads to better options for the people buying products. In the UK, they've let Chinese cars into the market with a 10% tariff. And you know what's happened? Competition in the marketplace has driven prices down so much that EV and gas cars are about the same price right now. That's great for everybody. That's real choice. And that's only because they've taken the brave step to let Chinese cars into the marketplace. they weren't scared.
Are Chinese EVs inevitable? Do you think they're eventually going to land here?
I find it hard to believe it won't happen.
That's Ethan Robertson. He runs the Wheels Boy channel on YouTube. You should definitely give it a follow. There's no American who is better equipped to talk about Chinese automakers than him. He lives in China, gives us all the scoops on all the great cars that are coming out of China. And when he talks, you should listen.
I truly find it hard to believe that there won't be a point at which the American consumer is looking at the leadership of the country and going, what are we waiting for?
You know, the reason Chinese cars aren't already in the US is, I'm going to stare right in the camera, is you, the consumer. Because all of the American car manufacturers, they know, and they've talked to their congressmen and they've lobbied, keep these Chinese brands out.
Yep.
Because we know the consumer, once they get here, to what Jim Farley said, to what you said, the brand's ultimately not going to matter that much. To the minute we let these car companies in and they sell a product that is competitive, doesn't necessarily have to be better, but they will be better in some cases for a price that's 30, 40, 50% less, it's game over.
And he's right. The real reason Chinese cars aren't here in America is because lawmakers and the industry have lobbied to keep them out, because they know what happens when people are exposed to these exciting cars. They want to buy them. Look, I grew up in a household with Fords, Chryslers, and Chevys. One of my formative memories is going with my stepdad to buy a 67 Corvette as a 10-year-old. I would love nothing more than to recommend the big three to some of my clients. But right now it's tough. The Koreans are dominating the 3-row EV space, and Japanese car makers are doing a great job with hybrids, and big three, they're just not rising to the occasion. And decisions like this to keep competition from places like China out of the marketplace only dilutes the market even further. At some point, protection stops being a strategy and starts being an excuse. There are legitimate concerns about Chinese vehicles, safety, data privacy, labor issues and the way they're made. Also, the way that prices are controlled by subsidies from the Chinese government. These are all things, though, that can be solved in a regulatory way, not by banning them altogether. These issues are being used to end the conversation that American consumers deserve to have. Meanwhile, upstarts like Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid are proving that American companies can make world-class electric vehicles. The question is, why aren't Ford, GM, and Stellantis being held to the same standard? Why is the government letting them off the hook? Why are they discouraging innovation at a time where the world is leaving us behind? Keeping Chinese cars out shrinks the market in two directions. It eliminates options for consumers, cars they might like to buy, and it eliminates competition that's going to drive innovation, to broaden the market, to bring new ideas and new technology to the surface. Fine is not a standard. It's what you say when you stop trying. If you're shopping for an EV right now, that's what Lanekeep is for. Link is in the description of the video if you'd love our help in helping you find the next efficient vehicle for your driveway. Also, all this content is in the latest edition of the Lanekeep newsletter. There's a link down there. Subscribe to that as well. We hope you do. And if you like this video, please feel free to subscribe and like. We'd love your support. Thanks for watching and keep your eyes on the road.